Today's the 2nd. Okay. All right. So, hi, this is Maria Nodoff of the Orangevale History Project. I'm here with Ken Benedict, who is our videographer, and we are here to interview Orangevale resident Manny Meraz. Today is March 2nd, 2023. Manny, can you tell me in what year you were born? Just the year.
I was hatched in 1948 and born in Sacramento at Sacramento General Hospital. And I can say that they broke the mold after I was born because they tore the wing down right after I was born. So they broke the mold, basically. I was one of the last babies born at Sutter General Hospital, downtown Sacramento.
Wow.
So the mold was broken,
So when did you move to Orangevale?
I moved to Orangevale, I got out of the service in 71. I'm a Vietnam vet. I was aeromedical evacuation, medical specialist in Vietnam in the Air Force, and was discharged in 71 and did 2 tours in Vietnam combat, and came home 5 months before I was due to be discharged and got married. Went back to Vietnam. I told my wife I did that because I didn't think I was going to survive. I almost didn't, but anyway, I didn't tell her that part. I've been saving money up since I was 18 years old to buy a house. That was weird. No, people didn't even think about that. I did. Anyway, I got married. We were married, and so I came back. Went to college.
Where'd you go to school?
College school? Oh, I went to Sac City and finished my AA. While I was in the Air Force, I attended the University of the Philippines in Manila. And that's a long story, but so I took courses there in nursing, and when on discharge, I came back, and we started looking for a house, but then figured, no, I better just attend college and finish up. So I got my AA in sciences, and then went to Sac State, and got there. And myself and three other vets that were had medical training, couldn't get into nursing because our bodies were bent. And they told us up front that even if you got a nursing degree or a PA, which I wanted to be, a physician's assistant, that I would not be picked up in medical because I was too disabled. So I said, okay, so 4 of us got together and decided, what about gerontology? Nobody knew what it was. Not even the professors knew what gerontology was. That time there was only 5 medical schools in the United States that had gerontology, and 3 were on the West Coast: UCLA, USC, and University of Washington. So anyway, went to school. We basically created the gerontology program at Sac State, and they had to patch it together because they didn't really have a program, so we got it in and out. So yeah, that was it. So we created the gerontology program at Sac State, and I graduated, worked on my master's degree after that, and was looking for not only employment but also a house. So that was 73. So in 74, we bought the house in Orangevale, and at that time there was a dirt road and a chalk line where they were going to build a house, and we followed the dirt road to the chalk line and said we want it, and everybody thought we were nuts. Our family thought we were nuts because we were 30 miles away from everybody and there was nothing out here, period. Greenback was a 2-lane road. Hazel was 2-lane road. Most of the roads, there were no sidewalks in Orangevale per se, and that was fine because Orangevale didn't really want sidewalks. And I figured, that's it, because I'm a farm boy from Elk Grove. So, a real farm boy. we actually had a produce farm, and we grew produce when I was from age 7 to 19 when I got drafted. We had the Young Brothers Produce Farm on Florida Oak Grove Road in Calvine, and we grew vegetables, sweet corn, potatoes, radishes, bell pepper, hot chili peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, pickling cucumbers, squashes, that kind of stuff. And so that's what we did. So all the kids were basically the farm workers, and my dad was the, I guess, general manager, and he gave us titles. So at age 12, I was a production manager for M Brothers Produce Farm, and I negotiated the contracts with the stores. And they said, "Oh, how cute. We got a 12-year-old kid that's a produce manager. We'll take advantage of him." Well, I knew what my cost margin was and what the ratio was and all that kind of stuff already. So I would plead ignorance and say, "Please, my dad's going to punish me if I get this low price." And of course, I was always negotiating for 3 to 4 cents over what my bottom line was. And then when I found out that I could get more, I would raise my line up. So I always ended up creating a huge profit. So they thought they were taking advantage of me, and yet I was taking advantage of them. So this were stores, Rayleigh's, Safeway, I Street Market, Fruit Ridge Market, Wong Brothers, all the major, so at that time, superstores, supermarkets, which were rare. And so that's what I did. So that was good. So, and we had chalk blocks on the tractors so we could reach the pedals and stuff, and that was it. So we all ran the tractors on the farm, and that's what we did.
Did you ever sell to either Vans Market or P&D Market?
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, they would come out to the farm. That was part of the process. They would show up about 5 o'clock in the morning, and we'd be out there already harvesting and picking since 3 in the morning with the truck headlights on and in the crops, and we'd be picking under the pickup light. And so they'd come pick up their produce and leave by 7, and we already had 5 hours of work in. And I wasn't alone. I mean, farm kids out there were doing all of this stuff, and we never thought anything of it because all the people we knew were doing the same thing. So we were all farm kids. So.
Did you ever deal with the Wu brothers?
No, I personally didn't deal with them. I know my dad did, and that was because that was too far out. So, but no, it was, that's the way it was. So I have pictures of my sister out there driving tractor. There's 4 boys and 1 girl, and the only one that wasn't on the farm working was my younger brother because he was too little. He was 4, 5, 6 when the farm was finally done. And we're all farm kids.
So what did you do in Orangevale when you bought the house?
Well, at that time, it was a twisted time. I had an application that was accepted at USC, in the School of Gerontology, Andrews School of Gerontology. And we went down and checked it out and saw what the graduate housing was like. And the signs across from the student housing at USC were like, basically, if you get mugged or killed here, we're not responsible. And so I'm going, I don't think that's very much of a welcoming sign to move in. And my wife said, "Do you really want to go to USC when we're parking across the street and they've got these signs, beware, you could get mugged or killed?" And I said, "No, I don't think so, but the school's good." So as I was ready to sign on the dotted line, I got a call from the federal government and said, "We have an opening. Would you like to join us?" So I started working for the Department of Human and Health Services, Social Security Administration, and worked my way through as an administrative officer and field representative, which you're totally independent, for most of Northern California, and did investigations and helped people and helped institutions and any and everybody from sheriff's department to coroner to public guardian to mom and dad to hospitals to gerontologists in medical facilities and stuff. So that's what I did. And I enjoyed that work. That was great. So anyway, in the meantime, living in Orangevale at that time, everything was, people were just starting to wake up and moving out here to the country, still country at that time. And that's when I became interested in what was going on locally. And so...
Is that the 60s?
No, that's early 70s.
Oh.
So, the people that I ran into were here 20 years before I was. So they had all the networking, and they knew people who knew people who knew people in Orangevale, the everyday variety person in Orangevale. And so they said, you know how to write and you can talk to people. Well, I had to in federal work. So I said, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And I knew about investigations, and this thing going on with the park district at that time was weird. But we were the ugly stepbrother to Sunrise Rec and Park. And that meant that even though you signed up for classes or something, you would get charged an additional fee on top of what you already paid on your property taxes, because you were the stepchild living in Orangevale. So I figured that's not right. We don't even have a park per se in Orangevale that's Orangevale. But yet, if we go to that park that's in our district, in our area at that time, we have to pay a surcharge. Everybody from Orangevale had to pay above and beyond what was called for from Sunrise. And Sunrise is taking our money and buying parks at Sunrise. And so Sunrise is the big, ugly gorilla, and we were just the stepchild on the side. And so we got together and said, enough. That's enough, And it wasn't, well, $5 back then was probably like $25, $30 now. And so it got to the point where people started asking, why do we have to pay more? Why don't we create our own district? And they told us, of course you can't do that. Nobody does that. You can't do that. That's one thing you don't tell people in Orangevale, is they can't do anything, because that gets their dander up. And they said, what do you mean we can't do it? So we found out what we had to do, and basically we had to raise money. And Sunrise, they'll tell you, oh, that never happened, but that's what happened. We raised money, and we raised a fuss with our local supervisors and got them to come out here. Did some tricks that are probably,
Was that Roberta McGlashan?
oh, that was way before Roberta. You're talking about Eugene Gualco.
Oh.
You're talking way back when. So you're talking about when John J. Cordano, and I knew John J. Cordano because I sat on his lap when I was a kid. And in fact, John J. Cordano helped us buy our family farm way back when. That's how, of course, he's passed away a long time ago, and John J. Cordano Corporation is still around, and those are his kids and his grandkids in the business now. But anyway, so I bumped elbows with, John J. Cordano, and asked him questions, and he'd say, okay, yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you can do that. And no, you can't do that. Oh, yeah, sure, this is what you want to look for. So we kind of begged, borrowed, and steal, and got together the other people in the community, like Bob Riley and Virginia Zabor, who passed away some time ago, Charlie and Marcia Clark, the Josephine Van Ness. Josephine was a professor at Sac State and at Cal Berkeley. Professor Edmers in, what do you call it? She was a plant doctor. Forgot what that is called right now. Anyway, so she helped us, and we decided to create kind of like I guess an interest group. We got together and found out that we weren't the only people around. And we formed what was called OAK, Orangevale Action Committee. And it was a nonprofit, a 501c3, so we were serious. And we got pro bono work from lawyers that lived in Orangevale. We had developers. We found out there was a large number of developers that lived in Orangevale. They built in other areas, but they lived here in Orangevale. We got mom and pop farmers. We got real estate agents, real estate brokers. We got bankers. Everybody lived in Orangevale, and they were all basically asking the same questions. Why? Why are we treated like an ugly stepchild? Well, we're way out there at that time, and they would tell you, nobody goes out to Orangevale. So we got our dander up. And so what we did is we started organizing, and with Oak, we ended up with 600 people in Orangevale that donated $5 each. So we had a little pool of money, and we started, we were able to pay lawyers for questions and stuff, and the more we did that, the more they would come out and say, we'll do it for free, because they lived in Orangevale too. So we went up. We didn't know you couldn't fight Southern Pacific real estate. We didn't know that you could fight Sacramento Savings Realty. People didn't do that. Especially everyday people didn't go up against Southern Pacific Realty. That is huge. Well, we did. And one of them was at Woodbridge Ranch. And so they were going to stop building their AR1 and AR2 properties and go to AR4 and 5, which is 4 and 5 houses to the acre. And we said, wait a minute, that's going to destroy Orangevale. And they said, why? You got all this land out there in Orangevale. And we said no. And we made them adhere. There was no environmental law back then, was basically sketchy, if that. So we actually created a big ugly monster and started protecting the oak tree, because we live in an area of elevation that covers from basically Red Bluff all the way down in through Sonora and Sonora County. Redwood. There's 7 kinds of oak trees. 7 kinds of oak trees that grow in this line of elevation, and they're found nowhere else in California. And we found out that there were native lands living amongst the oak trees. So we contacted the Native American groups that were there, and they were small and not well organized yet. They were farther ahead than we were, but still. So we got them on our side. We got people that knew about oak trees and how to protect them, and says, yeah, you can't just go around there and destroy the lands the way you're doing. Oak trees back then were being logged and cut for their firewood, and because it was great wood to cook, to do everything with. And they were cutting oak trees right and left. And if you go to Yuba County, you'll see where there's swaths of nothing. There's no more oak trees there. And there used to be nothing but oak trees in Yuba County and Colusa County. And those were all being harvested, and they were starting to come down this way. We said, basta, basta. You can't do that. And people started listening, and we went through Sac County and created an ordinance to protect the oak tree. Wasn't done anywhere else. Orangevale did it. We started getting contacted by community groups in Contra Costa County, in the Bay Area. Cities and communities were contacting us for help. How did you do that? So we told them how we did it, and they wanted us to go over there, so we lent a hand and would drive over there and help them out. And we were winning. We were winning everything we touched. Oak was successful. And people were scratching their heads. How do these people do it? Well, we have the environs of we had all the people that you needed. We had the property brokers, the lawyers, the mom and pops that knew, and property owners, developers. All of that came together, and it was pretty formidable. And it was Orangevale. So because we did that and we started asking questions and the park issue came up, we said, wait a minute, that's not right either. So we got involved in the parklands. And we said, that's not right because we have to pay a surcharge on top of what we're paying to Sunrise. That's not right. You take it on our taxes, but then we have to pay a fee. And if there's an opening, we'll get the fee. But even though we pay, we still have to wait. And so we started deciding we need our own park. And so people like Bob Riley and Virginia Zabor and Charlie Clark and Josephine, and there's others, the Andersons, they provided a lot of the backing and chutzpah, saying, yeah, and they knew from history what Orangevale was and what it was like and what they wanted to protect, and they got, at that time, young guys like me involved and said, sure. And we didn't know any better. And my wife would put her foot down and says, I don't care what you and Virginia and Bob do, just don't get arrested. And I could tell you things that we did that we could have gotten arrested, except we had the sheriff's department and the city cops on our side already because they lived in Orangevale. So it was kind of like, yeah. And at one of the hearings, this is kind of cool. One of the hearings, we got around the Sacramento County administration building, and the parking lot the elevated parking lot was brand new at that time. They had just finished. But we got Pactel people, because a lot of them at that time lived out here in Orangevale. We got them to surround the county administration building and the parking lot with their trucks and put cones out on the street so nobody could park there. Then we got about 24, 26 horse owners with horse trailers to get their horses together, packed them in, and went downtown. And as they pulled up, the the Pacific Telephone trucks would pull out, and a car or truck with a horse trailer would pull in behind them, take their horse out, walk them through the garage, over the elevated thing, and there was going to be a board of supervisor meeting. And we had a lot of developers there at that meeting that were going to develop in Orangevale. And they had a lot of their stuff down. They had their roads, they had their bankers there, they had their attorneys there, stuff you don't see today. They had their bankers there, okay, that were ready to get up and testify for the developer. Yes, we have our funding. Yes, we have this. They had their planners, their attorneys there, and I'm talking slick attorneys, and with their shark skin suits. And we showed up in just jeans and t-shirts and stuff like this. And unbeknownst to them, if you've been to the county administration building, you know there's, on the east side, there's huge glass wall with curtains. Well, they didn't know, nobody bothered asking why all these Pactel trucks were there and county sheriff cars were there. But as they pulled out, more and more trailers pulled in with horses. So we got up to our hearing, sat there, and okay, this is where politics doesn't play a hand. We got our people that lived in Orangevale to pick their produce. We had baskets of fruit that grown in Orangevale, peaches, oranges, you name it. We had strawberries, plums, all of these fruit baskets that Mom and Pop knew how to do these fruit baskets, got them together, went out and gave one to every supervisor, gave one to every county employee that was there at the desk. The developers were saying, hey, that's not right, that's not fair, that's not right. And so I got up to speak, and the supervisor said, well, you know, it's just fruit. And so we said, okay, and so I got up to speak after the bankers did and the planners did, supporting projects of 4 and 5 houses to the acre. I got up and I said, excuse me, before we do, can you pull the curtains back, please? And they said, well, why? Well, one of our supervisors, who was local at the time, said, yeah, let's go ahead and pull the curtains. They pulled it back, and there were 28 horses with people on saddles lined up, all facing there. And I said, this is Orangevale. You have a fruit basket with all produce grown in Orangevale, and this is Orangevale. And that's what you're going to destroy. The lawyer said, this is sickening. You just don't do this. That's wrong. They are changing the story. That is not what we're doing. And I said, this is, excuse me, it's my time. It's my time. Hush. Which lawyers don't like to be told to hush. So they got infuriated. And I said, excuse me, can you call order, please? These guys are yelling over me and it's my time. Can I have my time saved? Because they're talking over me. And so they said, yes, stop it. And they wouldn't stop. Because their egos were these guys are being paid who knows how many thousands of dollars just to show up. And here's Orangevale. Showing them just what Orangevale is. That we are just people that live in a very special place. And that's what you're going to destroy. If you don't protect the lands that produce this. Kids love horses. They're going to grow up into these places. It says you're going to take kids off the street and you're going to put them on horses. That's what you do. We won, hands down. 3 cases showed up. Boom, boom, boom. All denied. 5-0, 5-0, 5-0 across the board. And they were shocked. They stormed out of there. One of the developers said, I will never, ever, ever, ever build in Roseville again. I promise you I will not show my face in Roseville. And I tried to stop. He goes, shut up. I'm talking. And I say, point of order. They said, what is that? He's saying in Roseville, we live in Orangevale. And he just blew a gasket, grabbed his stuff, and ran up the aisle because he was so flustered. He was talking about Roseville, and we were Orangevale. And I said, sorry.
Manny, when was this?
Oh, it had to be about 76. So, and that threw a towel over a lot of people because not only was it visual, but it was authentic. And it was showing that we had people on our side and we had the wildlife there. And we also had the livestock. People had cattle in Orangevale. It was, across from me, it was a cattle ranch. And I still live within a quarter of a mile. There's 28 horses where I live. And it's on Hickory Avenue, north of Orangevale, north part of Orangevale. And Woodbridge is my neighbor on the one side. And they still maintain open space and trails and horses because of Orangevale. Because we fought and kept it. And that overlapped into Orangevale creating their own parks. Because the opposition to parks at that time was that we have our open spaces, we have horses, we have livestock. And so we don't need parks. We've got all this open space. Well, we knew we were going to grow. And part of my degree was in urban planning and urban design and gerontology, which is all of that stuff thrown together. Economics and medicine and transportation and retail, all of that stuff's all thrown into gerontology. So we knew that population's going to grow. And so given that, we started fighting for our own park district and creating the environment we wanted. And that's why the Orangevale Park and Rec District that you see today has horse arenas, has a corral, has trails, and there's more trails coming, by the way. We're going to finish almost a 5-6 mile trail from north of Sunrise to Wachitel. It's going to be finished hopefully by June of this year, July. Class 1 bike trail, and part of it's open to horses, and that's going to connect through Woodbridge Ranch that we're working on right now. We already have a horse light at Woodbridge Ranch across Hazel Avenue, and there's also another horse light at Casa Roble High School, at the corner of Community Park. And so you don't have to get off your horse. You just saddle up, mosey up to the light. It's at your saddle height, and
Push the high button.
push the high button, and you cross the street for you and your horse. That's already in place again on Hazel Avenue and has been since I bought the pipe for the county. And they said it was going to cost $400,000 to put the light in later. I bought the pipe for them for $80 at Lumberjack at that time when Lumberjack was there. And they told me what it needed to be, and I bought it for them because they said we don't have it in our budget. So I went down and I bought the casing, took it over there and talked the engineer into lining up and putting the stuff in. So for $80, we got something that cost $400,000. They put it in, it's all legal, and it lights up, and it's working. So we're ready.
How did you go about acquiring all the property?
There's, the property's already been masked out because I was on trail committee with the county. Sharon Brumberg and myself spent hours and hours and hours and days working on trail plans for the community of Orangevale. And we still have that on I'm still on the park district, and we work it into our meetings every time to at least have it there or mention it to keep it current so that we are up to date with what's going on with the county and the county trail committee meetings. We've been there, we've been connected with SACOG, the Sacramento Council of Governments. We're networked with them. We're networked with the trail program from the Bay Area going on to Reno and to Lake Tahoe, which someday there will be a trail. I won't see it, but it will be there. We've acquired the right-of-way for the rails from Placerville down. The old railroad trail, they don't use the railroad anymore, but the land is there, and it's been acquired for trails, so a large part of it's already earmarked for trails.
I thought that land was all sold off to individuals.
Nope, it's still there. And it's in easements in different places. The property going through Woodbridge connects across Hazel Avenue. Down there's easements on the side going toward Folsom. Folsom is coming this way with their trail connection at the Folsom Lake through San Juan Water area through their Bowen Dam Lake, which is more of a sump pool of water. It's not really a lake, although you might want to call it that, I guess. You can go through it with a mountain bike and go through the property and see where the trail's going to go. And it's nice. It goes through Indian Stone Corral, through the north rim of Indian Stone Corral on the Placer and Sacramento County line, right there, and connects on through. So technically it's already there, the easements are there. It's just one of getting the money and tying the pieces together. So, and we've been working on that for 30 plus years. So when people say the trail just went in, they're just like, no, it's taken a lot of sweat and a lot of people done it. And like my wife said, just don't get arrested. And that's what we've done. So we pulled it together, and the property owners had said, we have open space. We got them to see that parks actually create economic value, not only to the property owner, but to the community, because people come to your locations because of the trails. And if you look at the Sacramento American Bikeway on the American River, you can see that. It's visited by 6 million people a year. Where do they go? Where do they stop? Local businesses. Same thing with the trail up here. It goes through a lot of, the trail connecting this part from Sunrise to Ouachita will connect 6 parks together, and that's along the trail site. So, and part of those go through businesses, and convincing people that trails work to their benefit, and it increases their property value. And people who said, I don't want that because it's going to endanger my property, I don't know who those people are. Transients don't like to be seen. They like to be quieted and off to the side. The more people visit a trail, the less you're going to see a transient. They just don't put up with it well. And that's been proven. And sheriff reports and sheriff numbers back that up. Not only that, but when you sell a house or property next to a trail, people are going to ask, how do I get on it? We have a network set up already where people's backyards face a trail. There are 2 methods to access to the trail. And in fact, we do, and what we have done and will do, is the properties that back the trail in Orangevale, is that we're building the fences for them as part of the trail. So we will replace give them a new back fence and a new gate to the trail. And their property values have already increased. So, because now they have a recreational element to their property, which they didn't before. And it's going to be lighted and recreation along the way, because there's parks there with playground equipment, and people do what they want to do. You know?
Aren't there some exercise equipment along the way?
Yes, and along String Avenue too. We're going to add more recreational exercise equipment along the way, and that will eventually connect to parts of the community park coming down by Casa Roble on Granite Avenue. As the trail comes through, it's fixed to come down Granite Avenue, going south from the Placer Sac line, heading south on Granite, which goes to borders on Casa Roble High School, comes on down and connects to the park trail, and we'll go through Casa Roble, and Community Park already has trails, and that accesses directly to the back of the community center. So we told them that they could rest their horse there, take the bus to light rail into town, and come back and get back on their horse and go home. So what we're doing is creating just another element to recreation and transportation.
How many parks do we have now in Orangevale?
Orangevale, we've got, there's 10 parks. Some are open space, like Sundance Park, which the trail's going to go through. And that's 7 acres right there of natural park, and that park was created and developed by the locals. We had 200 property owners at the meeting, and we asked them point blank, how do you want this property developed? They didn't want to see green grass. They wanted to see open space in a natural area, and that's what we did. So it's going to remain that way. It's open space with park benches along the way and lighted. It already has lights, and it has a DG trail right now, but it's going to be hopefully finished by June, July.
That's decomposed granite.
Yep. DG is decomposed granite, which is pretty well packed. So, but it will be a class 1, so it'll be an asphalt lined, and it's 8 feet wide, plus 2 feet on both sides. It has to be safety approved, and that's what it is. That's why the width is dedicated to that, and with suitable lighting and benches along the way, and exercise equipment along the way here and there as you go along. So,
when you got here in Orangevale, did Greenback go all the way to Folsom, or did it stop at that one?
No, it went all the way through. However, it was questionable. It did go through. The History Project would know about the Orangevale Bridge, and it kind of went that way a little bit with a little fork out going through, and a lot of people on bikes, they should visit the Orangevale Bridge. It's really a neat way to go. And Sac County supposedly wanting to put a tunnel underneath the Greenback way to connect to what was, I guess, Negro's Bar. So they wanted to put an oval pathway near the Rainbow Bridge down in the gully to go through and create another bikeway, another access point that way, which I wish they would, because it would incorporate horse and riders, bike riders as well, and everybody, and getting a new access to the parkway. So, yeah, so all of these things are connected, and a lot of people don't realize that state, county, and local parks work together. They're not as independent as people might think. They all borrow ideas from each other, not steal, just borrow, because we give them back. And we work hand in hand with a lot of them. They don't always offer us materials, but sometimes they might have equipment that we could use, or we lend them stuff, or we've lent state parks parking areas and parking places for their equipment. So it saves them hundreds of thousands of dollars and man hours and equipment time. Instead of hauling back to the yard and back out, they can park it at a local park. And so we have designated that. We've done that with the county numerous times. The widening of from Oak Avenue on Hazel Avenue north to the county line, we've offered, when they were doing that, we offered them parking and places to put their rock and gravel. People in Orangevale didn't understand or like the idea of seeing all this rock piled up, but it was only going to be there for 4 weeks. And they reciprocated by grading our parking lot. That saved us a couple $100,000. So what we did is we helped them out, and they in turn helped us out. So we got something for helping, and they got something for helping. So it's a win-win type situation. The American River, the bridge on Hazel Avenue going to Highway 50, I was on that project. I was picked up by the supervisors and lent to Caltrans, I believe it was District 5, Caltrans, to build the American Bridge over the American River. And I had input into the recreational element of the bridge going across. So in that too, you'll see that what we did is we created a pad on the north part of the bridge where bike riders could get together and wait and pool. It's big enough for a helicopter, by the way, to land just in case an emergency comes along. Element they didn't think of. The bars that go up that are rectangle and go along the west side of the bridge, that's a horse bridge. It's one of 5 in the state of California. That was my element. It's built for a 16-hand horse with rider and a hat. So when you see the rectangle going across the west side of the bridge, it's not for bike riders, it's for horses. And because it's broken up and stuff, horses see things as they go past, as opposed to open space where they could visually see that. It negates the fear element in horses. So that's one thing, being a farm boy, picked that up and incorporated it with the bridge. At the time they were building, they didn't want to do it, but I said, that time I got the state horse policeman from Capitol Park involved in that. I got the Sheriff's Department horse posse involved, and I got the Sacramento Police Department horse people involved. And what we did is we traded elements. You use our horse corral for training anytime you want, free of charge. All I need is your input to say that, you might use this bridge occasionally for a lost child or emergency services or whatever. Sure, okay. So they use our facility whenever they want to, free of charge. They train their people. They have other places, one in Rio Linda and one out here. So it's a win-win for everybody, again. And it's an element that people didn't pay for because it was part of the element in the state bridge project, so we got a horse bridge. And a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of art involved. If you go underneath the bridge, you see more art underneath the bridge than you would just driving across it. So, yeah. So it was win-win, and I saw that and good, great. The pathways along Hazel Avenue, recreational element put in there for setbacks, and people could walk leisurely without worried about getting run over. Because they were going to put walk lanes and bike lanes directly inside next to the highway. And we're going, whoa, I don't know, but if you have kids and you're packing a kid with you and you're on a bike, I don't think you'd want to go on Hazel Avenue.
You need a buffer.
You need a buffer. And that's what we created as a buffer, setback requirements and stuff, where people feel comfortable and you don't feel like you're going to be drug under when if you're on a bike and a logging truck goes by, there's a huge amount of suction that just wants to take you underneath. And people who don't ride bikes next to logging trucks don't know that until they're next to a logging truck and they go by. And you want to get sucked in and you go, whoa, another safety element. So those are things that the recreational element throws in there and saves people. And so anyway, it's one of those things that's just you pick up and
What was Orangevale like when you first got here?
There were a total of 3 Mexican families living in Orangevale, and I was one of them. And so, I don't know, you might say it was kind of redneck at the time, and it was like, oh, why are you moving out there? There's nobody out there like you. And I didn't move out here because of that. I moved out here because the environment was similar to what it was in Elk Grove. But I knew Elk Grove was growing, and our farm was going to be eaten up, and it was, and it is. So moving out here, it kind of preserved that element for me. It keeps the open space. It keeps a lot of greenery, and it's changed. There's a lot more mixed populations out here now, which is great. We even have a couple Tibetan families that moved out here. I'm going, whoa, that's good. Hmong are out here, Vietnamese are out here, Chinese, black families, more Mexican families. So it's fine. It's good, and it works well together. And Orangevale is kind of a laid back, yeah, we got it, let's keep it community, and people will fight for Orangevale. They really, really do that. You can just go out to the community parks. There's no garbage. You go to a county park or a city park and you'll find trash thrown along the way. People don't respect their element. Out here, people are very protective of their parks. They feel that they're theirs. That's great. So, yeah, and I, today, walking back from one of the meetings at one of the parks, I stooped to pick up a gum wrapper, and this guy that was playing disc golf says, "That's really cool, a real cool citizen." He had no idea who I was. That's fine. He says, "Picking up trash, that is so cool." That was the only thing I had in my bag, and I had been walking for more than half a mile. So, and that's a guy who was playing disc golf. He could, but even the disc golfers go out there and they pick up cigarette butts when they see them. So, yeah. So if you build a community with people wanting to protect their community and share their community, you don't end up with problems. And there's very few problems I see out here. And being with the Park District, we get a lot of reports of the Sheriff's Department. You've been there. You've seen very few things. Most are ticketed because of license plate problems.
Now, Orangevale is an independent.
It's a special district, yeah. It's a totally special district. That means that the property owners of Orangevale dictate what happens in Orangevale, which you don't see that in a lot of communities. Being a special district, our funding comes from property taxes and fees that we develop from community programs that we put out. So that's where we get our money to operate. And a lot of people say, wow, the director, wow, yeah, you must make a lot of money, because they hear about these things. When I first joined the Park District, it was $100 a month. And
What year was that?
92, 93, 94. I don't even know anymore. Anyway, it was $100 a month, and I still get $100 a month. Okay, and that the $100 a month is to help me with my phone bills that I do contact, or gas that I travel around, or the hours I put. People will call me at all hours asking about stuff, and I'm going, if I know the answer, I'll tell them. If I don't know, I know to tell them I don't know, because I don't know. There's a lot of things that directors are only responsible for one employee in the park, and that's the park administrator. He's our only employee. The park administrator has the responsibility of administration and taking care of all the park employees. So I can't tell a secretary or a person behind the counter what to do. I can't tell a worker what to do, and I wouldn't dare, because it's not my job. That's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to try to keep the boat going straight and, not sinking. And we've got a fantastic crew. We've got a great administrator. The people seem to like what we're doing. I can't remember the last time I got a complaint about something, and it was only that their kid didn't play enough. And I have nothing to say or do with that, because I'm not the coach. So, but yeah, so anyway, it's, what we did is, I think when I first joined the park district, I joined because it just didn't seem right. They were putting their nose where it didn't belong, and I accused them of putting their nose up a guy's skirt, because it didn't belong in the first place. And that's what they were doing. They were checking. It made no sense. But, parks exist for recreation and leisure. And I see people tell me, I never go to parks, and then I find them out there sitting underneath a tree reading.
You've got dog parks too.
And we got dog parks. We got a very nice dog park. And those are expensive. That's $250,000 for a dog park. And we're trying to get restrooms in all our parks. Minimum start for a restroom is about $125,000. And if you want one for male, one for female, you're talking about starting at $150,000, going up to $200,000 just for a bathroom. So they're expensive. And and we try to keep our rates as low as possible. I think the current fee is $42 a year, and that's everything. We're trying to looking at a bond issue maybe in the future to try and elevate that to maybe $100 a year. That's $8 a month, and that's a cup of coffee. That's not even that. I think it's probably 3/4 of a cup of coffee at Starbucks. But, when that fee was imposed, it paid for a pizza. I remember when it was when we instituted the fee, it was $8 for a pizza. And it was wow. And now $8 is a down payment for a slice. So but that's the cost of doing things. And we want to give people the best we can. We surveyed our community center property that we bought 6.5 acres from a church group, and the first thing we got were phone calls from the neighbors, and they said, "What are you going to do?" We said, "Improve the property," and we have. We spent $250,000 plus rehabbing the buildings, fixing things, repairing things, putting things together, making them acceptable for public use to safety standards and ADA standards, American Disabilities Act, ADA standards, and now we get phone calls from the neighbors saying, "Thank you. That looks so much better. It's clean. It's neat." Yep. And now we're looking at things to put in there, and we're looking at things that the community has asked us to do. That's the difference.
Is that a possibility for the farmer's market in there?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Farmers market, we talked about that today in one of our planning meetings, and making it more accessible to ADA and improving the location, the same location for now, but improving that area, and also the entertainment aspect of it, improving their, getting them in and out with more ease. They've asked us to do certain things, and we said, yeah, makes sense, so we can do that. So, and the vendors have asked for certain things, and we can approve them, but it goes back to the contract, person holding the contract, and they're the ones that negotiate with the vendors, and then we negotiate with the contractor. So that, even then, you see us not putting our nose into somebody else's business because we don't know. You know, we're not experts in a lot of areas, and we know that. And we're not there to tell people what and how to do, because we don't know what and how to do everything. What we do see is the direction people want to go in. And what we can do is model things and offer them as models, and then people will tell us, this is what I want, this is what I need. And if it works, it works.
You recently did that with pickleball.
Yes, and pickleball is being sued nationwide because of the noise it makes, driving people crazy. The empty pong sound that hits plastic on plastic is driving some people crazy. And who would assume you'd get sued over pickleball? But that's happening nationwide. Luckily here in Orangevale we haven't had any of that. We've only had calls for more pickleball, and more pickleball. And we talked about increasing more pickleball courts. That's on the agenda coming up, just appropriating the funds for it. And pickleball courts are not cheap. Just rehabbing a tennis court to pickleball, I found out costs about $32,000. And so we're sitting there going, but it's a pickleball court. Yes, just to make it to standard size, and everything has to be standard, because if it's not built to specifications and somebody gets injured, malfeasance on part of the park district. So you have to make sure it's done correctly and according to standards, according to ADA standards, because even a person in a wheelchair can play. So yeah, and it has to be conforming. So that's what we do. We conform. So, and again, it's people telling us what they want, and being a special district, that's what we're there to do. And again, we're not the know-it-all, and I don't think any person on that current board, or even the prior current boards that I've been associated with, would tell you that, yeah, they know what to do and how to do it. No. We have the outline, and we have the generalizations, and we have the model. And we offer that to the public, and again, the public tells us. So, and we're there because of the public. If they didn't want it, they wouldn't put us there. They would vote us out. So, and when I ran in the last election, I had 2 contenders filing for my position. When they found out I filed, they withdrew their nominations for the position. I guess they're happy with me just being there for this, this term. So anyway, it's actually humbling when you think about it. And it's, I don't think the board has an ego problem. There's no political problems. Those stay out of it totally. I've never heard anybody talk about politics since I've been on the board. It's just no politics. We've had some candidates that never made it, but they were going to fight for people's rights on the park board. Excuse me, people's rights on a park board? Should never even get to that definition. No, because everybody has equal access to a park. That's the way it should be, and that's what we do. So anyway, that's that. I wish I had more history, but people like Bob Riley, Virginia Zabor could keep you in stitches for hours. She's passed away. She was my, I got talked into this because of these people. And particularly Charlie and Marcia Clark. They cornered me and they wouldn't let me say no. And I just said, I don't know anything. And they said, good, that's what we want you. You don't know anything. And I said, okay. So, and I'll tell Charlie, in fact, when I saw Charlie a week and a half ago at the Best of Orangevale, he said, you still don't know anything. I said, that's right. And he says, that's good. So, that's the way it is. And, it's kind of neat in a way. If I was to lose the position tomorrow, I would just say thank you. That's it. And I just do what I do, and I offer my advice, and I listen to the administrator. And sometimes the employees come to me with problems, and I say, okay, I'll listen to you, but I can't do anything. You go to the administrator. It's not that important. They say, okay, it's fine. But if it is, you know who to go to. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it's kind of neat being a resident of Orangevale, because Orangevale is kind of it's a special place. It really is. I mean, you go down to the county planning department. When we first moved out here, county planning department was almost non-existent. It just had a handful of people. All the new people they hired, they would assign to Orangevale. Boy, did we bend them. We bent them. Those same people, if they're still there at the county, and a lot of them are, will tell you, you just don't mess with Orangevale. Just don't. Just don't. They will tell developers who come in there with plans, no, don't even go there with that. It ain't going to work. It's Orangevale. Don't bother. Nope. We'll listen to it. Sure, we'll pay your fees. We'll listen to it. We better talk to Orangevale. So they go to the CPAC. And I was a member of CPAC for 8 years. And that's the Community Planning Advisory Council. And I helped work on county amendments to the county planning element in the entire county. So I've done my time there. I've been appointed by every supervisor that has served since Eugene Gualco to present. I've been appointed by the supervisor to some committee that made a major decision for the county. So I guess they like the fact that I alert them and I just give them straight data, because they're going to have to make their mind up.
What's your opinion on getting cityhood for Orangevale?
It can't work because we don't have the economic base. That's the problem. If Orangevale had the economic base, we would be a very strong community, very strong city. But because we don't have the economic base, we don't have money for fire, for our own police, for our own water sewer, for our own traffic studies, for traffic lights, even repair of sidewalks and potholes. If we had that money, we'd be great. But as far as cityhood, it's not possible because we just simply don't have the funding for it personally, and people don't want to have to pay $20,000, $30,000 a year per parcel for that kind of stuff. The county can spread it out through the whole community. What do they have, 14,000 miles of road? Something like that. And they are responsible for every inch of that road. So that's why we have trouble filling potholes out here, because it's the county's responsibility. Thankfully not Orangevale. But yeah, all of that costs money, and that's the situation. So
I don't have any more questions.
I don't either. Thank you. This was a great insight.
Okay. But yeah, so, and I've worked with all groups. When I was with the federal government, one of my groups that I worked with that taught me patience was the Native American population. I was responsible for I was liaison with the Native American Congress. And there's 10 Indian nations in the state of California. And each nation has tribes. And tribes branch out into rancherias. Rancherias branch out into bands. And bands drop into households. And the problem is when one person of one band or one rancheria or one tribe and one Indian nation marries a person from another Indian nation, another rancheria, another tribe, another band, and they marry, which is fine, but they have offspring. Where do those benefits go for the offspring? One Indian nation, you got problems. They're trying to tussle out who gets what for what, and that's where patience comes from, and that's where I learned it. A lot of Native American chiefs, some like to be called chiefs, some are called presidents, some are called directors. They taught me a lot about patience, because a Native director, a president, a chief will tell you when you sit down and talk to them, they'll talk about everything for 45 minutes, not what you're in there for, just to see how you react. If you survive 45 minutes talking and listening to what they have to say, then they'll get into the subject and ask you about what you're there for. So if you go in there with fire and brimstone and business-like, you're going to be shown the door almost as quick as the business is that you get out of your mouth and you're out. So it teaches you a lot about patience and working with people, and that really helped me out quite a bit. So it's there, and we've been lucky to have some of the supervisors that have been outstanding in Sac County. Gualco, Jim String, I love Jim String. He tried to do everything for everybody, and poor guy. I mean, he was great. He still is great. And so, yeah, I've been through all of them. So I've been around a long time, and what's that? A man's got to know his situation and how far to go. And I've got bad arms, so I can't throw anything very far. So that'll do it.
Well, thank you. That was terrific.
Okay.